Hey guys, welcome back to another pick a card reading. For this one, we're going to be looking at how they see you. So this could be people in general and how they're viewing you. It could be about a specific person on your mind and how that person is viewing you. So I'll leave it open for you to decide that. I have 6 piles to choose from, so you can go ahead and choose your pile. It starts with pile 1 to pile 6 on the right. And just to explain a little bit of the process of the reading, I did shuffle songs for this reading, so I'm gonna kind of go over the song that was shuffled for each pile first, I think. So we'll go into that, and I'll probably put maybe some timestamps in for people who want to skip the song message, just in case maybe, I don't know, it's not resonating that much, or they could just skip to the cards basically. So yeah, go ahead and choose your pile. We'll get into your reading and see how they see you. Alright, pile 1, welcome to your reading. So you guys chose this mushroom card here and the silver moonstone. So in case you skipped the beginning, I shuffled a song for each pile in this reading. So I'm going to kind of go over the song first. And I'll have timestamps in case you wanted to skip the song message and just get straight into the card messages. Because I just kind of felt like, for some, maybe the song's not really relevant. Especially because, well, your song seems to be kind of, well, romantic for sure. I guess you could also see it as just like any type of relationship if you remove the more like romantic flair from the song. But so this something interesting about your song was that when I decided to shuffle songs for the reading, and pile 1 is first, so I shuffled a song, and it happened to be a song that I just added to my playlist. So that was kind of interesting to me. I wasn't expecting that, and it was kind of like it's just a little bit shocking, I guess, that song would come up. So that's kind of what I think, maybe a way you're being viewed, maybe by a specific person or someone in general, or people in general, I guess, but maybe it feels more like a specific person. But yeah, something unexpected. Maybe someone feels a little bit surprised by your presence. Which, by the way, I'm already talking about your song and I haven't even told you what the song is yet. Sorry about that. Here's your song. It's Are You Up by Phantoms or Shaylin, both of those people. I don't know if it's a popular song, but yeah, I recently discovered it. I liked the song, so I added it to my playlist. Was not expecting it to pop up for the reading, but that's cool. So, kind of getting into the song, there's a version of the song, or like a part in the song where it's a guy singing, and then there's a part where it turns to the girl's point of view and she's singing. So I kind of thought that was interesting. I thought, depending on, maybe your gender, or something like that, you would resonate differently with different lyrics in the song. But so I guess to read the lyrics to you, and these are not all like the whole lyrics of the song, I just wrote down specific lyrics that I thought were interesting, that I would probably want to look back at to kind of maybe describe how someone is seeing you. So for it starts off with the boy's version, or the boy's point of view, and he's singing, something in my cup has me contemplating, reaching for my phone to find out your location. I know that I shouldn't, but I'm on one, must be a strong one. And then it says, baby, you should know that I ain't falling. Yeah, I'm just calling. Um, let's see. Some lyrics that I guess aren't really the most important, but I wrote down, I wouldn't lie to you, won't make you feel a fool, no. I wouldn't lie to you, just want to end my night with you. And then it says, I don't gotta know too much, just are you up? So basically, I guess if you resonate with the boy's point of view, it would be like someone who's viewing you as having your eyes on someone. And that may be, with the. Oh, so there was one lyrics that I didn't write down, but I've kept in my mind ever since. I kind of went over your song, and he sings, "All I see is you and all these other faces," is what I think it says. So it's almost like, and he says, "You should know that I'm not falling. Yeah, I'm just calling." So it's almost like he's treating it like it's a casual connection, that he's not like falling in love. He just kind of, wants some like maybe attention for right now, which seems a bit strange to be saying that if you're also saying, all I can see is you and all these other faces. It's almost like a little bit of in denial about their feelings. Like there's something about maybe really liking someone and kind of making it seem like you're not that interested, or you're not as, in love as you are, or something like that. But and then it goes to the girl's point of view. She says, "I know how you get when you drink. It's 3 a.m. and I know my phone's gonna ring. I don't know much, but I know the way that you think." And she sings, "So where are you? This empty bed just feels better with two. If no one knows, then there ain't nothing to prove. We can do whatever you want to. It's your move." And then they both sing. They're both singing together at the end of the song. And what I wrote down says, "Hope your eyes ain't closing, 'cause I'm still down. Tell me where you're at, and I'll call an Uber right now." So yeah, I don't know. It's just, if you resonate with the girl's point of view, it's kind of a similar message, like just being interested in someone, maybe being a bit passive, and it's like, she's saying, it's your move, so she's kind of waiting for him to maybe reach out or something like that. There's also something here about this lyric, "If no one knows, then there ain't nothing to prove." It almost feels as if like this is a very secretive connection. Maybe one or both people feel like nervous about what maybe people would think if you were with this person. I don't know, something like that, because it feels very hidden, and and that could just be because someone is acting like they're not that interested. But it just seems like there's two people who are very drawn to each other regardless. So hopefully that makes sense. Like, I think, if you resonate with the boys' version or the boys' point of view, it's just you're interested in someone acting like it's not that big of a deal, yet maybe you can't forget them, and that's how you're being viewed, and like, you're kind of like really craving someone right now or something like that. Same for the girls, just like a little bit, again, more passive, just waiting for someone to approach her, a specific person in this case, and showing interest in, wanting to spend their night with someone, essentially. So that's like the song that you got. So yeah, it could definitely be viewed as, having a love interest of some kind, where it's like maybe not the most stable situation, but both of you have an interest in each other, that type of thing. But let's get into your cards and see what comes through in your cards. So yeah, your mushroom card, and it says, okay, I thought it said "if I'm not falling" for a second, but it says, "If I'm not failing, I'm not living my fullest life." Okay. So yeah, that card to me is just like, I guess you're being seen as someone who feels as if it's worth taking risks for growth in life, because if you never try, if you never risk failing, usually you don't grow and you don't learn. Like, failing is part of the learning process. And so it's like you're being viewed as someone who's either trying to work on not being intimidated by failure and not letting that like drag you down or make you give up on a situation. And so there's like a strength that's coming through in the way people are seeing you right now, or a specific person. So you have first aid kit, ensuring a resilient tools readiness. And that's a card. I'll probably take a look in the book towards the end of the reading for that card. Let's see. We have the Emperor. as well as the rod. So, okay, that's actually pretty interesting. And I shuffled the songs a little bit later in the uh, process of like setting up the reading. So part of the reason why I thought it might be interesting to do like the boy's point of view in the song versus the girl's point of view is because of the Emperor card coming out. I wonder if, I don't think many guys do watch tarot readings, but they're definitely out there, and maybe this would be a more popular pile for the guys or something. But anyways, yeah, the rod is interesting because that kind of talks about, well, it can talk about arguments or reoccurring sort of issues, but I don't necessarily. Well, it could be. I mean, just looking at the first aid kit. Like maybe there's a need for some like repairing or something like that, or fixing up a wound, something like that. So maybe you're viewed as someone who's been through some fights or arguments, reoccurring sort of problems that have maybe had an effect on you, maybe, damaged you a little bit. There's a need to kind of heal from it, something like that. You could be viewed like that. But I kind of thought the rod might be just like a reoccurring situation, especially if you relate to the song that you got, which it does feel like, they've definitely met up many times, and maybe besides like seeing each other at 3 a.m. or something like that, it doesn't seem like maybe much happens outside of those moments. So maybe that's sort of like a reoccurring theme where like you meet up with someone and that's how you're being viewed. Even though maybe outside of that, maybe the relationship seems a bit stagnant or empty in some way. So that would be like an issue that you're having with someone, that maybe you want progress or you want to overcome some sort of cycle, but maybe it's like the other person. Especially when it comes to relationships, it's not one who decides that. I mean, both people have to decide that if it's going to happen. So I do think people are seeing you as a leader with the Emperor card, possibly someone who takes initiative, especially if you do resonate with the boy's point of view in the song, which would be like reaching out to someone, contacting someone, something like that. And perhaps I also see the Emperor as someone with status, and power, authority, stuff like that. In generally, like the Empress and the Emperor are people that you pay attention to when they come out in a reading. So I do feel like you're being seen as someone who's worthy of attention, or at least you come across as a very important person in someone's mind or something like that. Okay, let's see. We have slippers, poised, balanced, classy, restrained, graceful, calm, disciplined, mature, flexible, and dedicated. Trying to make sure that the cards are visible on the camera. Give me a second. So, okay, that's actually interesting because looking into this card, now something that I do know about this card, because I did look into the book before I, started the reading. I was curious and I wanted to see. Um, you have the survivalist merit, and one of the negative attributes of the survivalist could be aggression, which I thought was interesting since you do have the rod and the Emperor, which, you could kind of connect the Emperor to Aries energy or like Mars. Well, I don't see Aries people as like being aggressive in any way, like at least the Aries people that I've met. Not that they maybe couldn't be, but usually they're pretty sweet, just to put that out there. I don't usually see Aries people as very angry, but um, it is associated with Mars, which could be action, aggression, passion, those types of things. So I do think you're being viewed as someone who's very passionate, very, again, it fits in with being very attracted to someone, very passionate about someone. But I was wondering with the first aid kit if maybe the negative attribute would be important with like Emperor energy with Mars and showing maybe aggression and there being like arguments. So it is possible maybe you're viewed as someone who is aggressive, but I kind of don't feel like that would be the case with the slippers coming out with this like poised, balanced, classy, restraint. So I would say it's like it could be that you're being viewed as someone who is maybe angry about a situation or upset about a situation, yet you show a lot of restraint in like, maybe feeling aggressive. Or I mean, it could even be with the Emperor card, like naturally you're viewed as someone who takes initiative in situations. Like maybe you're not someone who usually hesitates to take action, but perhaps in this case you're being viewed as someone who, again, is like putting some restraint on that. Maybe not taking a whole lot of action right now, not being like, I guess, forceful in any way, which I do think like really does kind of fit in with, I guess, the girl's point of view of your song. It could also be, if you do, like, I know that I did put timestamps in, so sorry for those of you who skipped the song message and maybe you don't really resonate with that part, but for those of you who might resonate with the song as well as these messages, I feel like it could be that, it's like a reoccurring sort of situation with someone you like where it's like nice when you hang out with them, yet maybe there's not a whole lot of growth outside of that. So it could be that you're being viewed as someone who's kind of not really wanting to continue that cycle with someone. Maybe it's that, like there's this energy of being mature. So maybe it's like you want a mature partner, and maybe you're being viewed as someone who is kind of letting go of more like immature energies in love, like people who don't know what they want in love, people who are not maybe consistent or reliable or showing commitment in love. So yeah, I could be wanting to kind of step back from those types of relationships or something like that. And then yeah, I have this little Sailor Moon Major Arcana deck that these things are so flimsy. Like it's probably not it's not great quality, to be honest, but I really wanted a Sailor Moon deck. It's only the Major Arcana, but so we're using it today. So you have the Devil. So yeah, okay, actually that makes a whole lot of sense. And so part of it could be based off of the song is that you're being viewed as someone who, again, you're attracted to someone. It could be, a very sort of casual, maybe even just like a sexual relationship or something like that. So I do feel like maybe you're being viewed as someone who's having, those types of feelings for someone, wanting to meet up with someone for those types of things, possibly based off of your song. Otherwise, it could also be, the Devil does talk about more negative things, situations that trap us, and I could definitely see it. It would be like someone that you're involved with that you feel maybe there's no growth with that person, or there's like reoccurring problems that maybe don't get solved, or there's not, you're not getting like answers for like an issue or something like that. And so it does seem like you're being viewed as someone who's detaching from someone, or yeah, something like that. um, and it doesn't even have to be necessarily associated with another person. Like if you're not really dealing with a love situation or another person, then I would say you're being viewed as someone who's, again, stepping up as a leader in your own life to kind of like heal your own wounds, untrap yourself, detach from maybe more negative situations or reoccurring problems. It could be that you're being viewed as someone who's finally starting to overcome certain problems that you've been kind of stuck in a cycle in. And that, yeah, you are coming across as someone very mature, someone who's ready for maybe more in life. Definitely with the if I'm not failing, then I'm not living my fullest life. There's something about your, like the way you're being viewed that's wanting to take risks, but not in a stupid way. Like with slippers, it's definitely like you think a lot about the actions you take, is what it seems. You're careful, you're responsible, you're trustworthy, is I think another thing. Okay, so let's take a look at the first aid kit. So I'll read the survivalist merit for you. So the survivalist merit symbolizes endurance and creative self-reliance in the face of harsh conditions. Survivalists are raw, fiery individuals who dislike the mundane and loathe social conformity. They thrive on independence, often establishing private, self-contained bubbles over which they exert full control. That's interesting considering you have the Emperor card. Yeah, I do feel like you're being viewed as someone who has a lot of self-control. And it says they find purpose in self-preservation. To survivalist, nature is an escape. So their virtues are unyielding, solitary, and resourceful. Yeah, I would say another thing about you is you are being viewed as someone who's quite independent, who doesn't really need maybe a lot of support, or it's, I would say it's like you're not being viewed as someone who's, in this case, maybe codependent with the devil coming up. I think it would be that you're, at the very least, being seen as working through issues like that, if you do resonate with struggling with that at some point. And then the flaws of the survivalist could be aggressive, and I already kind of talked about that. Okay, so let's see. So it's interesting. Part of the reason why I kind of went into the possibility of, being seen as aggressive or something like that. Not necessarily, actually, but more so seeing like wounds, to be honest, like things that you need to heal or something like that. The reason why I kind of thought that was because of this page. It like shows like blood stains all over the page, so it's making me think of like wounds and needing to be patched up or healed or something like that. So I feel like you might be viewed as someone with a few wounds that you're healing, you're patching it up. You're definitely being viewed as, taking care of yourself. So it says May 15th. Use this kit to patch yourself up, for Christ's sake. You look like hell. Leave when you're done, though. You're on private property, my property. Didn't you read the damn sign? How do you even get in here? Use that bottle there, the black one. The peroxide. Pour some on those gashes. Where'd you even get those from? Now dress it with that gauze and tape. Maybe put on... Sorry, maybe put one of those pads underneath too. Jesus, you really are a klutz. Just keep the damn kit. You need it more than I do. I got plenty more inside, but it's not for you. So yeah, I don't know. You could be viewed as someone who's very like territorial right now, like stay away from my things, something like that. Could be like that, especially if it's like, it does seem like your energy shows up as being kind of over a problem that's been reoccurring, being done with it, kind of realizing that maybe something's not going to come out of it, or maybe, I don't know, something like that, where you're stepping up and becoming more mature about maybe certain problems in your life, or it could be just wanting to protect yourself. I do feel like, yeah, being viewed as trying to protect yourself, trying to heal from a situation, and maybe pushing someone away, possibly. So, yeah, I think that's all the messages that I have for you today, Pile 1. I hope that it resonated with you. It was interesting to listen to, and thank you for watching. I'd love to have you back in another reading. Have a great day. Bye. Okay, Pile 2, welcome to your reading. So you chose the purple fluorite. So we're going to get into your reading, see how you're being viewed, either by a specific person, or it could be people in general. But if you skip the intro, I shuffled a song for each pile, and I'm going to kind of talk about the song first. So I'll put timestamps in if you want to skip the song messages and go kind of straight into your cards, just because I thought the song messages might be a bit more specific, so maybe it's, for specific people and not necessarily everybody. Um, but yeah, we'll go ahead and talk about your song now. So you got this masterpiece, in my opinion. You got Stay Ready, What a Life by Janae Aiko and Kendrick Lamar. I, in an earlier reading, got a Janae Aiko song, and for some reason I pronounced her name Jean. So I feel a little bit embarrassed about that. But so yeah, I love this song. And by the way, the songs are in the description if you wanted to check them out. I forgot to let Pile 1 know. But so I wrote down some lyrics from this song that I thought would be interesting to kind of talk about as far as like maybe how you're being viewed. Somewhat similar to Pile 1. Like Pile 1's song was maybe not the most popular song. I'd never really heard of them before. It's just kind of a new song I came across, and there was kind of like a boy's point of view in the song and then the girl's point of view in the song, where like in your song there's Janae singing in the beginning, and then there's like Kendrick's part. So we'll talk about that, and maybe yeah, I don't know. Basically, we start off where it says, the lyrics say, "Here in this dimension, you and I are meant to be. I have waited lifetimes to find you. Now that you're here, I can remind you of the things you've been dreaming times two." So it's like very deep, very romantic, definitely feels very soulmate or twin flame like here in this dimension, you and I are meant to be, and like waited lifetimes to find you. So, if you resonate with thinking those types of things, like you could be viewed as someone who's very romantic, someone who's very spiritual. Oh yes, and I was doing some looking into, the lyrics, and I kind of was curious. So, there's a website. I don't know what it's called. I'm sure a lot of you probably know about it, but it just shows the lyrics of the song, and you can kind of click on the lyrics to see how people interpret the lyrics. So I did a little bit of that, and I kind of came across some information, and I might have already known this, possibly. But Janae is a Buddhist, so she does believe in reincarnation, just like a little side note. Um, so yeah, and then we kind of move into Kendrick's lyrics, which I kind of just wrote down some very sexual lyrics, because I'm not going to really write those down. It's just very sexual. But then he says, some lyrics say, "But if I stay monogamous, promise this kiss will always taste like candy. And yeah, it's obvious mom and them probably can't stand me. I'm sure they tired of this look that you have when you're antsy." And then there's a bunch of more sexual lyrics. So like, basically what I got from that, um, you know, based off of some of the other songs that Kendrick Lamar has done, he doesn't come across as a very monogamous type of person. Um, and so it could be that in a way you're being viewed as someone who's interested in someone who's like kind of non-committal. Um, Maybe you're being viewed as like that's kind of your type, is the like non-committal types, like maybe your type's kind of like the players, and that's how you're being seen. But I would even say like kind of what was coming through, because later on in the song the lyrics that Kendrick sings tends to get a little bit like a lot more romantic, to be honest. So it kind of made me think that like the way you're being viewed is you're able to get maybe non-committal types or players essentially to kind of have a lot deeper feelings for someone than maybe they're used to having. It's kind of like what I got from that, because he sings, "Look at what you've done to me. You put a gun to me, then you brought the sun to me. Shine like blood diamonds, learning to have patience only 'cause you are timeless. The universe energy doesn't lie, and this chemistry is infinity at a million times. I wrote a million rhymes describing your star power." So, like, that's very romantic coming from him. He probably didn't write those lyrics, I'm assuming, but, like, I kind of get that, like, yeah, you get those player types or those non-committal types to, like, feel very deep things for you is kind of what I, get from that. And then the last part of the song is kind of not really seeming to be so associated with love. But it's Janae singing again, and she sings, "All that I know is right now, nothing's for sure but right now." Then later on, she's singing, "I've been through some shit, man, but I be on my shit, man. I decided that what you give is what you're given. So I've been trying to do it right. I've been doing like whatever gets me through the night." So you're also being viewed as someone who's maybe changed a lot. Like, and this would make sense if you were kind of attracted to like non-committal types or player types. Like, perhaps, you've been through some stuff. And to find those types of people, attractive and interesting, something like that. You're definitely being seen as someone who trying to, get your life together, trying to do better. Um, And yeah, trying to do the right thing. Like, I decided what you give is what you're given. So it's like you're trying to, treat people as you'd like to be treated, I would assume. I forgot that I wrote more lyrics. I don't know if it was both of them singing at this point or maybe just Janae, but I think it's just Janae. "I'm steady, always on the go. You steady, always on the go. We steady, losing all control." And then she sings, "If everything is dipped in gold, then baby it'll never grow. Everything sweet ain't sugar coated." And then she sings, like, for the last part of the song, "What a life that I've been given. What a life that I've been living. What a life we die to live in." It's a very deep song. That's why I think it's kind of like a masterpiece. I love that song. And yeah, I don't know. It's maybe you're being viewed as someone who's kind of self-reflecting on your life, all the things you've been through. You've been through a lot, and it's almost like when she says, "If everything is dipped in gold, then baby it'll never grow." Basically, like if everything was perfect, there would be no growth. Like there would be nothing to improve. There would be nothing to change. There would be no challenge. And then she says, "Everything sweet ain't sugar coated." So it's almost like you can find blessings in even the roughest parts of life if you look for it, kind of thing. So I do feel like you're being viewed as someone who's extremely strong. Like you've been through a lot, you've picked yourself back up, and you've decided to, you know, take your experiences and put them to use, learn something from them, grow from them. So yes, that's your song. Now let's get into your cards. Okay, so your mushroom card you have says, "I will find balance between letting go and hanging on." So a level of detachment you're being viewed with. You have Homesteader, respecting a seeker's escape. You also have the Hermit in the Garden. Okay, let me sit with this for a second. So interesting, it says respecting a seeker's escape. So maybe you're being viewed as someone who's kind of like, obviously you got the Hermit card, which, by the way, we have Virgo energy here. Maybe being seen as someone who's kind of detaching from society with the Garden. Like, yeah, it definitely seems as if you're being viewed as someone who does not follow society, possibly, which does actually fit in with this Homesteader card here, because pile 1 got the survivalist merit, and this is another survivalist merit, so it does explain that there's like a rejection of conforming to society and stuff like that, which fits in very well with the Hermit. Like I would say you're being viewed as someone who's very unique, someone who does things your own way. You're very independent. You don't really care what society's expectations or standards are. And it could also be that you're being viewed as someone who's kind of just hiding away from society or a community, something like that. Or it's just that you don't, you're kind of just doing things your own way despite what society says, or, yeah, maybe like what your peers think of it. We have remote. Power in your hands, increase, decrease, initiate, choice, direct, navigate, selection. Yeah, I don't know. And I think there was something else coming out with the survivalist merit about having a lot of control. And it seems like maybe quite a lot of self-control, which makes sense with this I will find balance between letting go and hanging on. Like I do feel like it's interesting. I've heard this before, and I feel like this makes a lot of sense that the more you're trying to control maybe a person or a situation, the more it's showing that you're not actually having that control, if that makes sense. So I don't feel as if your energy comes across as like manipulative, like it would be like, I don't know, trying to have control over someone by maybe disappearing from them or something like that. Like, I don't think that's what's going on, but I do feel like you have a lot of self control, and it seems as if you don't look to other people for permission for things. You kind of decide for yourself what you want, what you'll do, even if that, again, like that's not exactly what society would say is the best thing or what's right or whatever. Um, I also think with the hermit energy, it could be that, you know, there's definitely with the hermit is a sense of like self discovery, kind of a lot of introspection to figure out your direction in life, what you want to be doing. And that fits in pretty well with this sort of navigation with the remote. So you could be viewed as someone who's changing up. Um, yeah, it kind of fits in with the song too. Like, oh, it could be that, you know, some of you probably resonate with living a very rough, maybe childhood or a lot of, you know, rough sort of circumstances within life. That you've been strong enough to, you know, pull yourself through those experiences, but they do affect us deeply. And, you know, as someone who does kind of relate to that, the life path that I was on before I went through kind of like a spiritual awakening seemed a lot darker than what it is now. So I kind of feel like that might resonate here is like you're kind of wanting a better life for yourself. And kind of to do that might be, again, a lot of introspection, looking at your past, and deciding where you want to go. Another thing here could be that you're viewed as someone who is very popular, but maybe you don't always enjoy a lot of attention. Like with the hermit, I could say, like, maybe you're viewed as someone who does like a fair amount of space, alone time, like you might really value your independence. And definitely with the garden, it could be that you're quite popular. And you're viewed as someone who does tend to get maybe a bit overwhelmed by how popular you are. Like you tend to kind of shy away from everyone at times to maybe rest or get some just alone time. Um, and it does seem like you're viewed as someone who it's hard to change your mind is what I get with the remote. Like when you decide something, I don't feel like you're someone who's very easily influenced by other people's opinions. Um, you know, it's kind of like you'll just do what you want to do, and you might be viewed as someone who, again, won't change their mind for someone, something like that. And I have a little Sailor Moon Major Arcana. These cards are not the greatest quality, but I wanted to get them. So you have the Emperor, which was interesting since pile 1 actually got the Emperor. So there's Aries energy there, and I do feel like, yeah, you definitely are viewed as someone who takes the lead, maybe in situations, someone who has a lot of control. Like, I feel like, again, it's maybe you're being viewed as someone who is very hard to convince. Like, it would be very hard to convince you to do something you already decided you don't want to do. So you could be viewed like that. Like, again, it's almost like someone's coming through to say that, like, there's no use in trying to convince them. They'll just do what they want to do. It seems as if you have a lot of control or power. It's like you're the one who gets to decide things. And I do feel like another thing about you could be that you might come across as a bit intimidating to other people. Especially, like, it seems like maybe with the hermit, you could be seen, for some of you, like a bit quiet in social situations, so people don't exactly know what you're thinking. And if you're quiet, a lot of people can make a lot of assumptions when someone's quiet. So they might assume like you're judging them or something like that. And one other thing that I did notice as I was shuffling at your cards at first, so you have a crow here on the hermit, and then you have these blackbirds behind the emperor here, and I don't know if there are crows with lighter colored beaks, so I kind of assumed maybe those aren't crows, but in case that there are, seems like there might be a lot of crow imagery coming up, and I mean, that would just make me think that you might be kind of misunderstood, especially, like, it would make sense if you don't always go with what society thinks or what society believes or something like that. Like, you might have a very different way of looking at life than the people around you, or a very different way of thinking than the people around you, and maybe people don't always get it, so they might, again, a lot of assumptions might come up about you that aren't really true, and it could just be because you're misunderstood, maybe you're quiet, or maybe they just don't understand the way you think about things or the way you do things. So let's take a look at the Homesteader card, and I will read you the Survivalist merit. So it symbolizes endurance and creative self-reliance in the face of harsh conditions. Survivalists are raw, fiery individuals who dislike the mundane and loathe social conformity. They thrive on independence, often establishing private, self-contained bubbles over which they exert full control. They find a purpose in self-preservation. To survivalist, nature is an escape. Their virtues are unyielding, solitary, and resourceful, but their flaws could be aggressive. I don't think that you come across as aggressive, although I did kind of tell pile one. They also got the Survivalist merit and the Emperor card, so associating the Emperor with Aries energy and more so like Mars energy, there could be a lot of passion, like an urge to take action, maybe like a bit of impulsiveness or even aggression is associated with Mars. So maybe you could be viewed like that, but I don't really see within any of the other cards that you really come across that way. Okay, and then you also have, like, there's like, I don't know what they would be called. Hold up. Okay, there's major merits and minor merits. So that was your major merit, the Survivalist. And then the minor merit that you have is the Seekers, which is a search for something. So definitely with the Hermit, it would be like you're being viewed as someone who's searching for answers, maybe searching for clarity, searching for, a direction that you want to go in, something like that. So let's see. Okay. The Homesteader. So these little things in the book are kind of interesting. So I'll just read it to you, and you can kind of do with it what you want. May 20th. Back there, I was under it. I was under the surface, crushed daily by design. Here, though, I'm above it. I'm on top of the crust. Just me and the sun in my routine. Well, that's interesting. If the Virgo energy coming out with the Hermit, you could be viewed as someone who's very deep in a specific routine, like you really like your routines or something like that, which would make sense with this sort of like, yeah, this does seem like quite Virgo energy with the remote, like wanting control over things. Maybe you're viewed as someone who needs things to be very organized, or like again, you may maybe make lists for like plans throughout the day. You have a schedule or something like that. Could be viewed like that. So yeah, continuing the read says, back there, I'd wake up 2 o'clock, drag myself building to building, dim hallways, elevators that took me nowhere, offices of people passing papers, tearing tape, arranging boxes, and the chatter. It never stopped. Got worse and worse. The filler questions, the measuring sticks. One by one, everybody got converted into comparing machines. Eyes went glossy, lips hung loose, all of them just staring into their personal black holes. And then it says here in all caps, do you have the new this? Oh God, no. Did you see him do that? No, what, who? Please, yeah. Well, we all saw it, and you didn't, so ha ha ha. They turned everybody against me, friends, family, even my pet chinchillas. They served me notice. Yeah, sorry. They served me notice for not fitting in, not being likable. But the kicker, their threat was exile. Sign me up. I packed up as fast as I could, started the car and just drove. Now I'm free from the world. This feels actually very, like, fitting for this energy. Yeah, free from the world they created for each other. I get to decide how I feel now. Yeah, I mean, it seems like maybe perhaps you've been very, in the past, very influenced, not influenced necessarily, but maybe like trapped in society, if that makes sense. And yeah, it says here, like, along with the crow imagery of possibly being misunderstood, they served me notice for not fitting in, not being likable. So, I mean, not to say that you're not likable, but yeah, when someone is very different and their way of thinking is very different than everybody else, like, it's kind of like they say, people fear what they don't understand. So, people could maybe treat you kind of unkindly because you don't fit in. You're not like everybody else. You're very different. You're unique. And it seems like, it could have bothered you, but seems like you stay strong in who you are despite the judgment that other people might have. And I do feel like it's very hermit with the garden of being like, like now I'm free from the world that they created for each other. Like they can, live in their bubbles or their beliefs or whatever. And it seems like you'll be elevating or something like that. You're doing things differently. And I would say don't give up on what you're doing if you resonate with these messages. Keeping you, because I love that type of thing. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who do too. You just have to find them. So yeah, that's your reading, Pile 2. I hope that you liked it. That is interesting to listen to, and thank you for joining me for this reading, and I'd love to have you back for the next one. But if not, have a great day whenever you're watching, and that's it from me. Bye. Alright, Pile 3, welcome to your reading. So here's the stone that you chose. It's Scolasite, and in case you skipped the intro, I'm going to let every pile know. So we're starting off with a song that I shuffled for your pile, and we'll talk about that. In any case you wanted to skip the song messages, I'm going to have timestamps in the description so you can just go straight to the card messages. It might not be such a big deal for your pile, just because like I felt like pile 1 and pile 2 song felt quite specific, which is partially why I wanted to add timestamps in case some people it's like they didn't really need those messages and they can just kind of skip straight to the cards. For yours though, I don't feel like your songs came up with such specific meanings, so maybe it's not, maybe you want to stick around and listen to the song messages because it might just fit in very well with the rest of your reading, but totally up to you, so you can decide. But so yeah, we'll talk about your song first. So for your pile, the first song that I shuffled was Pale Blue Dot by Big Wild. And if you know about that song, probably not, I don't know. It doesn't have any lyrics. So usually when that happens, I feel kind of guilty or bad to leave that pile off with a song with no lyrics because I feel like there's not really much to say about it. So I shuffled another song in it came up with How Did I Get Here by Odessa, which is another song with like basically no lyrics. There's some lyrics, but not really. I wasn't going to fight with it and just keep shuffling songs until I got lyrics. So I just kind of, go with what we got here. So partially what I think when songs come up with little to no lyrics is that maybe you're being viewed as someone who is kind of quiet, doesn't talk a lot. You don't always have a whole lot to say, something like that. So there's that. And so Pale Blue Dot, what that song makes me think of well is just like, I feel like that's a really nice song for like road trips. So I kind of just wrote that maybe you're being viewed as someone who enjoys road trips or just taking trips, going on vacations, traveling. Maybe you're viewed as someone who's been doing a lot of traveling or something like that. Like maybe that's why you're quiet, is like maybe you haven't been around because you're off traveling places. That's kind of unlikely for most people watching, but yeah, you could be viewed as someone who really enjoys travel or, again, road trips, going on trips with friends or something like that. And then for How Did I Get Here? Well, one thing could be you could be viewed as someone who's a bit clueless or forgetful, something like that. And like, hopefully you don't get offended by that. I think that might fit in. And again, don't feel offended because it could just be if you do resonate with being a more quiet person. At least for me, I resonate with that. I'm a very quiet person in like my real life. And yeah, I do feel like people kind of see me as maybe being a bit spacey or not always like realizing things because I'm very quiet. And it's more just that I'm very in my mind and thinking about a lot of things. So yeah, you could resonate with that your mind is very active, so much so that, and obviously, like if you are a deep thinker, usually you're not going to be like usually talking about those very deep thoughts with other people. You're just kind of thinking about them. So yeah, it could come across like you're very quiet, but maybe your mind is very active. And I really thought that could be the case because just before I started your reading, looking at your mushroom card makes me think, like, for some reason this mushroom card makes me think of the Seven of Cups. Because all these little mushrooms here, it's like, which mushroom are you gonna get? And like maybe this energy of like fantasizing a little bit or your mind being very active. So yeah, you could be viewed as someone like that. But I also felt like with How Did I Get Here, maybe there's a feeling of like self-reflection about your life or something like that. So you could be viewed like that, like you're reflecting on your life or something like that. So the only lyrics that are in How Did I Get Here, and it's kind of interesting because you can't really hear these lyrics in the song. They're kind of like distorted. So it doesn't really sound like it's saying this, but it says, "It's sad, but it's true how society says her life is already over. Nothing to do and there's nothing to say," which actually that's kind of fitting with the sort of quiet energy. Yeah, so maybe you're viewed as someone who has nothing to say, who's very quiet. Maybe people realize it, maybe they don't, but your mind could be quite active, and that's why you don't spend a lot of time talking about. Like, I would say, like, that's a kind of a sign of someone who's very intelligent is, they probably can't really just talk about all their ideas with the people around them because they're more focused on what they're going to eat for dinner tonight or, like drama that's going on or something like that, where maybe you're not really interested in those types of conversations and you want to think about deeper things that feel more engaging to you or something like that. And you wouldn't be able to have those types of conversations with the people around you. So you just keep quiet. Some of you could resonate with that. I definitely resonate with that. So, and part of the reason why I'm saying that I try to be very unbiased in your reading, but when I shuffled out your cards, I was like, damn, if I chose any pile, it would have been pile 3. So I feel like I really relate to your reading. So hopefully that doesn't, cause me to be biased at all. Again, I try to be very unbiased in my readings, but something that I found very interesting about the song How Did I Get Here, if you click on the lyrics, you can kind of see people's interpretations of the lyrics. And it kind of just came with information that basically the lyrics, it's sad, but it's true how society says her life is already over, nothing to do, and there's nothing to say. That's a sample that came from, I think it's a song called 22 by Lily Allen. And it just kind of, I wrote down what it said, which was it details how society treats women as they go through their 20s. It emphasizes the extent to which much of this is out of any individual's control, tying into Odessa's theme of how did I get here. So that's kind of an interesting little message. Which I'll probably reference later. I'll talk about this because of something that comes out in your reading, which I thought was very interesting considering this. I kind of found this information about the song. So let's get into your cards. So your mushroom card here says, nothing is ever never. Interesting. Okay. Let's go. Okay. Stargazing, deciphering a calling purpose. Okay. This is the card that I found to be very interesting, and I'll read from the book for this card and kind of reference back into your song probably, because I think it's very fitting. You have the Hierophant and Bones. Huh. So I don't know. There could be, like, with this nothing is never, or nothing is ever never, in the Bones, which kind of talks about maybe like an ending, a death of some sort. Um, I don't know. I do feel like there's maybe a very sort of hopeful perspective coming through. Maybe you're being seen as someone who has a lot of hope for things. Feels like a lot is possible more than what people maybe realize or consider, something like that. I mean, you have the Hierophant card, so you're viewed as someone who's very wise, very, like, actually very smart. Like, I would assume maybe even if you, like, people might perceive you as being a bit spacey because you're often maybe thinking in your head and you maybe not doing a whole lot of talking about what you're thinking about. It could be that, if you're quiet, people think you're just, a shy person or something like that. But I would say, maybe it's like when people actually do get a chance to talk to you, like they would realize that you do have a lot of knowledge, you have a lot of wisdom, you're very smart. For some of you, there's books on the Hierophant card, so you might be viewed as someone who really enjoys reading or learning. And the Hierophant card could even come across as a bit of like a teacher. So maybe you're viewed as someone who can teach a group of people or teach other people. Maybe it's like, for some reason I'm thinking a lot about situations at work. Like, where I work, I very rarely engage in conversation. And I kind of like to just put my headphones in and think about things and get my work done. And, something I notice is a lot of the times my boss will be like kind of questioning the things that I do, but I have a reason for the things that I do. So like sometimes he would come by and see something that it seems as if I just didn't put it away or something like that. And he'll come by and be like, oh, these go here. And I'm like thinking in my head, well, I already know that and I already put them out, but these are the extras or something like that. And I think like over time he realized that I don't need a whole lot of help. I know what I'm doing and I have a specific way that I do things. Um, and so yeah, you might be the same way. Like you have a very specific way you do things. You know what you're doing, and maybe people come in and try and help you, and it's like the help is unneeded, something like that. Let's see, we have medicine, getting help, aid, mental health, physical fitness, sickness, pills, vitamins, diet changes. Oh, okay, so maybe you're being viewed as someone who's getting your health in order, something like that. Whether that's your mental health, your physical fitness, like your body, getting the right vitamins, eating better, something like that. And even if it's not about like eating habits or something like that, it could just be, again, like your mental health. Like it would seem as if you maybe have overcome a lot of sort of challenges with your health, whether that's maybe mental health or your physical health. Like I feel like you would have the ability to learn things that help you overcome problems. Like for example, sorry, okay, maybe I might go into a lot of examples in your reading, so sorry in advance if you don't really like the examples, but this kind of helps me talk about it. But for example, like depression, a lot of people believe that when someone, is depressed, that, well, at least I see a lot of people who believe that, there's not really anything they can do about it besides taking medication, something like that. And while I do agree that medication can help with symptoms that you're experiencing, medication is not going to fix the problem, usually. And I find that even with physical health, a lot of people relying on medicines to heal their bodies, which create a lot of other symptoms that they're going to need more medication to help with those symptoms that their other medication is causing. And, you could kind of learn more natural ways of healing the bodies, which doesn't give you more symptoms to deal with. And that's something that, like, people kind of don't always fully understand. I've heard a lot of stories of people doing, like, there was one story of someone doing chemotherapy for cancer, and it was only creating a lot worse, like making their condition a lot worse as they were going through that treatment. Then they decided to try a natural way of healing the body, and it worked. And it got rid of symptoms, and it was a lot better than like maybe certain medications that are prescribed and stuff like that. But essentially, like, it could be that with this sort of like nothing is ever never, it's almost like there's this you're being viewed as someone who has a lot of hope, who doesn't feel like you should give up, that there is an answer out there, there's a solution out there, there's a way to overcome things, there's things you can learn to make things easier. Regardless of whether that's like for your physical health or your mental health, like it could just be situations that I feel like, well, in my perspective, and maybe you agree with this, that there's always an answer out there. There's always a solution. There's always something that you can do to make a situation at least a little better. And that's better than nothing. So yeah, I don't know, maybe you could, there's like something about you might be viewed as someone who has wisdom, you have information that could help other people who are sick or going through something, bad, I guess, something negative. And then I have Sailor Moon cards for this reading. They're like flimsy and not the greatest quality, but I really wanted to have a Sailor Moon deck specifically with this sort of like old art, not like someone's fan art, to be honest. But yeah, so I mean, these are not the greatest cards. They're only Major Arcana, but you have the sun, and you got little Chibi Moon, or what's her name in English, was like Rini or something like that. But yeah, you have the sun energy, which is again like maybe this very healing energy. It could be that you live a life of positivity, or like I also think of the sun as having a lot of like vitality. Like maybe your health is good, maybe it's like you started off life with having a very like unhealthy way of doing things, that maybe you realized over time, like you could actually fix a lot of these things, you could overcome things, you could find information that would make things easier or even get rid of symptoms completely. And it seems like maybe you're viewed as someone with the sun, like having a lot of vitality, having like so much energy, having a lot of positivity, and like just feeling very good. And it seems as if you've had to find information to make that possible, something like that. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, for some of you, well, maybe one of you even, like, it's kind of interesting to me with this sort of like idea of health, medicine, and we have bones here too. Okay, so for some of you, maybe it's like, I mean, I mentioned this in a previous like reading, and it is kind of like a common issue that people tend to go through. Like perhaps like with food, like anorexia. Sorry, like trigger warning right now, but yeah, it could be something like where you healed that, where maybe you at some point were, treating your body very unhealthily, something like that. Like I would say, like maybe it's like you wanted to lose weight back in the day and you did it in very unhealthy ways. And then over time, you learned like maybe ways of eating better, that like you don't have to starve yourself, you can eat, you just have to figure out how to do it the right way, or like working out instead of like, you know toxic or bad ways of, being healthy or losing weight or being skinny, something like that. That kind of shows through here. Maybe there's something like that. You overcame an eating disorder and now you're maybe treating your body a lot better, working out, eating well. And then it could also be like what I was talking about with like, not specifically cancer like chemotherapy, but like maybe there was a very scary health situation that you went through where it could be that your life would be over or something like that. And like I've heard stories about that where, someone was given a time frame for, when their life would be over, and maybe through, honestly, like there's been stories like through sheer positivity. There's actually been studies done about this, that someone was able to live on, because they didn't give up, something like that. They still had a lot of optimism, a lot of faith, and they still had this strength that they wanted to, you know, continue, be alive, something like that. Sorry, it's a little dark, but it is very interesting, the power of the mind. Maybe I can link, honestly, it's a TikTok video, but I could probably link a video that kind of goes over this sort of thing. There was even, like, this relates to your reading, but in that same video, it explained that there was a study done where they had people imagine like working out, building strength, and they had them practice these visualizations, and they grew in muscle mass quite significantly just from imagining that. So you could kind of think that, like, yeah, maybe the brain or the mind is extremely powerful, and your perspective definitely matters for your health, something like that. Very interesting. I told you I kind of had a feeling for what was coming out through this reading, but I was not expecting that. So let's get into your stargazing card. I was really excited when that card came out, and what that talks about. If you happen to see my reading on your next life adventure, in one of those piles I talked about this idea of free will, and that I do see free will as being a lot more limited than what we think. And I'll kind of talk about that. But let's take a look at the Gatherer merit, which you have. So, and by the way, I hope that you're getting what you need out of this reading, that it feels like I am describing you and not just describing ideas or, things like that. So sorry for going into that. So, but yeah, you're being viewed as someone who, like, really feels that you've learned a lot to create a healthier life for yourself. And there's this sort of belief that maybe you have, that the mind is very powerful, that if you don't give up and if you find the right information, that things do get better. So, with the Gatherer merit, it says the Gatherer merit symbolizes learning from your surroundings and collecting knowledge. Gatherers are information driven intellects who enjoy piecing together the inner workings of the world around them. Though they are collectors, they are generous and gracious in sharing their abundance. They view themselves as part of the natural world and feel at home in the outdoors. To gatherers, nature is a source of endless lessons. So your virtues could be open-minded, intellectual, and curious, definitely with the Hierophant energy coming out. I would say that's, true in how you're viewed. But the flaws could be like a know-it-all. So there could be people who feel like you just, want to show off your knowledge or something like that. And, who knows if that's true or if that's just, people rejecting your ideas. Because there's definitely people out there who do that. Okay, and then your minor merit is an irresistible calling. So maybe you're viewed as someone who has like a sort of irresistible calling towards maybe a belief or an idea or something. So yeah, let's see. Okay, so stargazing. You get the date August 12th. Should be in a few. Well, no, August was last month. I don't know what month it is right now. Okay, so it says here, my grandparents were both big into astronomy, loved studying the stars, said we came from them. They were adamant about things being predetermined, the whole no-will philosophy. Grandpa would say, out of all the odds, the universe gave me hands to hold and your grandma to boot. I disagreed with them for a long time. How could it all be determined? But it kind of makes sense. Not being able to control where you came from, where you were born, how you were raised. We're just knots on a string. When you think about it, tied on by something out there, being pulled through time. So I was so excited when that came out, and that's even in this deck and in this book. Because I do feel like, and again, I'm going to go off on another little tangent, so excuse me while I do this. It does seem as if a lot of people, especially scientists, are a bit maybe triggered by the idea of not having much free will or things being predetermined. And I kind of feel as if people want to reject that as being a possibility because it makes them feel uncomfortable. I don't know about you, but for me, the idea that things are predetermined makes me feel a bit relaxed. Like, if I'm not in control, why should I worry about what's going to happen? If things are a bit inevitable, like, I shouldn't be so stressed out about having the power to change things. Like, I can just relax and kind of go on the ride. But on a deeper level, like, yeah, it says not being able to control where you came from, where you were born, how you were raised. As an example, like someone who grows up in poverty is not going to have the same sort of mindset as someone who grew up in a wealthy household, or, someone growing up in a household of neglect and abuse is definitely not going to be thinking the same way as someone who grows up in a household that's very, nurturing and loving and things like that. It's a very different experience, and something that I definitely believe, regardless of whether you want to think we have free will or not, or if the future is predetermined or not, you can say for sure that we are heavily influenced by our past. And the way I see it is that people don't make random decisions, like, essentially. Like, you can say you make a random decision if it's like, something simple, but like, you would have to have the openness to be able to make random decisions to even make that random decision. And someone who's very focused on routines and control and the way things should be might be less open to making more random decisions. Like, I do feel like every decision we make is influenced by something. And in that way, if something is influencing us to make decisions, then that influence in the past is kind of dictating where we're going. Not that we can't necessarily change it, but people are very heavily conditioned. And until they kind of wake up to that, they don't usually change much. And it's kind of like they're on a specific trajectory based off of the past that they were given. And again, not that you can't change it and form a better life for yourself, but even having the decision to do that would come from some sort of influence as well. And I don't know, my perspective of it is like if you slowed time down to see things frame by frame, like in this moment, you could already see where things are headed. Like, I do feel like in this moment, the energy already decide what's next. So it's not as if, like, from the Big Bang, like, this has already been decided and the next 10 years has already been decided, but I would say this moment is already creating the next moment. So in that way, once we get to the next moment, it has already been decided what the next moment will be. And in a way, I kind of do feel like the future is predetermined. And if any, like, anyways, like, it is interesting to think about our birth charts and things like that. And you could literally, like, read your own, essentially your own biography in your birth chart. And it's like, how did these things play out? And it does create a lot of questions. Is the future predetermined? Do we have free will? And in my perspective, I think it's responsible to think that our free will is extremely limited by our influences in our past. And to be aware of that actually gives you the power to kind of break free from those things. So it's important to pay attention to. And I would say it's like, with this, how did I get here? Pulling it back into that. If you're still with me here, with all my little tangents, again, sorry for that. Hopefully it is, interesting for the right people to listen to. But let me pull back up your song. Yeah, it says, even the song talks about, it emphasizes the extent to which much of this is out of any individual's control, tying into Adeza's theme of how did I get here? Where it's like, yeah, you know what? We could say, like, we're here where we are right now in the present moment because of our past. All of that added up to get us to where we are right now. So I would assume that's still happening in the future. And you can kind of relax knowing that you're just here for a ride, essentially. You are making decisions, but they are heavily influenced, not gonna lie. And, that's just my perspective. You don't have to agree with that necessarily, but I would say, you're viewed as someone who does a lot of reflection, who understands that where we come from, it makes a very huge impact on our life and the sort of conditioning we go through in childhood. And I would say maybe you point that out for people that, like, maybe their perspective comes from conditioning, that they don't have to think that way and they can find new information to help them break free from any problem or issue or maybe even mental illness, something like that. I definitely believe maybe most, if not all, mental illness could be cured if you have the right information for it. Possibly. I hope so. But yeah, that's your reading. Again, I'm sorry for all the sort of ideas coming up in scenarios. Hopefully they are engaging to listen to, but I guess I just thank you for letting me get all my ideas and things I like to think about out in this reading. So again, hopefully it was somewhat entertaining to listen to. But yeah, that's your reading. I hope that it also made sense, essentially, how you're being viewed, along with all of my sort of tangents that I went on. So yeah. Again, thank you for watching. I'd love to have you back in another reading, but if not, have a great day, and that's it from me. Bye. Alright, pile 4, welcome to your reading. So you guys chose the Peter site for your stone, and we'll get into your messages. So first I have a song that I shuffled out for each pile that I'm going to talk about, so we're going to start off with that, and in case you're not really interested in the song messages, I will put timestamps down to kind of skip to the card messages. Yours was one of the piles that... So, okay, the reason why I decided to put in timestamps in case people want to skip the song messages. Specifically for pile 1 and pile 2, it seemed like their song message might be very specific. So I kind of thought like maybe it was more important for specific people who would choose that pile, and you can kind of just decide if you want to listen or not in case it's not really your message. For your pile, it's kind of like that, and it's kind of not, because I have some like sort of more general messages that come through with your song, and then as we go deeper in, there might be some more specific messages. So I'm just letting you know. And so your song you got was Blood, Sweat, and Tears by BTS. So if you know about that song or BTS, they're a K-pop group, so they sing in Korean. It's not in English. So one message I get from that is maybe a way that you're being seen as someone who speaks more than one language. Maybe you're bilingual. Maybe it's kind of surprising to people around you, especially if they're kind of new, like a newer person in your life. Maybe they didn't expect that you speak more than one language. That is actually pretty specific, so that's probably not for everybody in this pile, obviously. Another sort of intuitive message that I get from that song could be that the way people see you might be a bit inaccurate. The reason why I say that is so if you look at me as a person and then you knew that I had some K-pop songs on my playlist, I could see a lot of people might assume that that's like heavily like a big interest of mine or something that I really am into, and that's not the case. It's something that I kind of dabble into. So it could be that like one thing could be that the way people see you is that you're very open-minded towards your friends' interests. So it could be that you kind of borrow your friends' interests. You like to kind of see what your friends like. You're open to what your friends liked, and maybe some of your like interests or the things you like are a little bit influenced by your friends or something like that. So that could be one way that people see you. And it can also just be that like certain interests that you have, like maybe you're interested in it, you like it, you're not a huge fan of it, but it could be that there are people around you who kind of assume that you're a lot more interested in certain maybe topics or interests or hobbies more so than you really are, maybe based off of your appearance or something like that. So that's kind of initially what I got from the song. Also, when you're listening to the song in English, it sounds, well, not in English, because there's not an English version, at least that I'm aware of. But when you're listening to the song and you speak English, it almost sounds like they're saying at one point in the song, money, money, money. So it does, I kind of thought that maybe a way you're being seen as someone who's very focused on money or your success in some way. That's actually not what it says. It sounds like money, but it means something different. So I wrote that, obviously with blood, sweat, and tears, it could be that you're seen as someone who's a very hard worker. You never give up. You're persistent. Okay, hold on. There's like a fly trying to attack my coffee. I'm going to pause the video and take my coffee somewhere else. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And to be honest, I'm still looking at that fly. It's still around here, so I'm hoping that it'll just go away and not be an annoyance during your reading. Yeah, so I was saying like you might be seen as someone who's a hard worker. You never give up. You're persistent in achieving something. So then I kind of went in and looked at the lyrics of the song translated to English, and it's kind of like my first time actually reading the lyrics of this song. So this is where it may be, besides the message of being bilingual being pretty specific, I do feel like these messages I'm about to get into could be more specific as well. So just a heads up for that. So the lyrics in English, I wrote down some lyrics that I found interesting or important. So it says, my body, mind, and soul, I know well, they're all yours. This is a spell that will punish me. So it could be that you're seen as someone who's very into someone, saying your body, mind, and soul is all theirs. But this is a spell that will punish me. So I do feel like maybe you could be viewed as someone who's maybe like head over heels for someone, but you maybe don't trust the situation, or you feel like it's not going to end well or something like that. Or maybe it's just that you're burdened by your feelings towards someone, because they could be very intense feelings. So more lyric says, "It doesn't matter if it hurts, tie me up so I can't escape. Hold me tight and shake me up so that I can't come to my senses." So, yeah, it kind of seems as if you're viewed by people, or maybe a specific person that, again, it's like maybe the person you're interested in, it hurts you on some level. Maybe, it could be a stagnant situation. It could be that you feel that the love is not reciprocated, but for some reason your feelings don't really allow you to let the situation go, because it says so that I can't come to my senses. It's almost like not wanting to see a situation for what it really is, maybe because it's hard to let go. And then more lyrics say, "I cannot worship anyone but you, and I knew the grail was poisoned, but I drank it anyway." So it could actually be that the way people see you, or maybe someone specific sees you, being aware on some level that the situation is, like poisoned, or it's damaging in some way, or again, it's not really a great situation, but maybe there's, you might be viewed as someone who doesn't have the greatest, maybe, willpower to stay away. So that's your song message. A little bit of a tougher message. But let's get into your cards. So your mushroom card here, you got the green mushroom. I think I've seen this one. I don't remember what it says. Change is inevitable, growth is optional. Okay, let's see. We also have lost. Feeling a costly affliction's absence. We also have the mountain, and we have strength. Yeah. So there's like that. I remember strength being a part of your reading. And the mountain does talk about obstacles, challenges, delays. So it could be, with change is inevitable and growth is optional, it is possible in the more negative sense that you are viewed as someone who doesn't want to accept a change, something like that. And maybe, again, along with your song, kind of struggling to move on from a situation, resisting a change. And obviously with lost, possibly you could be viewed as someone who does feel a bit lost. Like it could be that, you have someone that you like based off of the song, and it's not the greatest situation, but it's difficult to let go. So it could be that you feel as if, there's people who do feel like there's not a lot of options. Like they like someone, and besides them, there's no one else that they're interested in. So it is kind of a refusal to move forward. And kind of have an open mind towards new things, new possibilities, and see what else is out there. So it could be that you're viewed as someone who is a little bit stuck on a specific situation. Strength could also come up as a somewhat stubborn energy, again, not wanting to let go of a situation, even though maybe it's full of obstacles or challenges. And feeling like you don't really have another direction to go in at this time. Interesting. Okay, let's see. So we have bed, intimacy, sex, safety, relaxation, dreams, sleep, deep conversation, comfort, and attraction. So yeah, there's maybe someone you're interested in. You could be viewed as someone who has dreams about someone, who talks about your dreams about someone, maybe just talking about your dreams in general. Maybe you do sleep a lot. It could be that, obviously the words here, we have deep conversation. Maybe, you're viewed as someone who enjoys deep conversation, who wants to have more deep conversations. Yeah, it definitely seems like if you like resonate with the song messages that you're definitely very attracted to someone, but it could be that it's viewed as a love situation that doesn't have much to it other than maybe a physical connection. And then we have a Sailor Moon card. I explained to the other piles, this is not a very high quality deck. It's just Major Arcana, but I just wanted some sort of tarot deck with Sailor Moon in the old art. So I believe this is Neptune, Sailor Neptune, and she represents in this deck the Magician. So yeah, okay. This is a spiritual energy. This is wanting to manifest a connection. And possibly again, this does feel like, okay, you could be viewed as someone who believes in soulmates, believes in twin flames. I don't really have a problem with... Well, okay, no, that's not true. I do have a problem with the twin flame concept because it does keep people trapped. Unfortunately, like the whole story sounds messed up, like, oh, okay, there's a runner and a chaser, and I'm sorry if two people are very interested in each other, that doesn't happen. Yeah, there's fears that can kick in, but generally if you're attracted to someone and you like them, and maybe you would agree with this if you feel that you have felt this way towards someone, like even if you have fears about someone and you're attracted to them, in my case, it's never really caused me to fully run away from the connection. I still give my energy to it. So I don't believe in the whole runner and they're absent from your life, but they're somehow thinking of you. And no, I don't. I never want to kind of encourage that because I see how that keeps people trapped in unfulfilling relationships, unfulfilling situations within relationships. So it could be that you're viewed as someone who is wanting to manifest a connection in your life, but there's some challenges around it. And maybe there's a reluctance to see that the situation is very burdensome, doesn't bring you a lot of joy or a lot of happiness, yet you can't really break your attention away from it. I do think the way people see you is you can overcome it. There's strength here, there's mountain. It does feel like there's people around you who do believe you have the strength to move past it. Like a poisoning situation, an unfulfilling love situation. Maybe this is someone that you've been intimate with, but maybe you don't get a lot much else besides that or something like that. Yeah, and even here, we'll take a look into the book for this card, Lost. Feeling a costly affliction's absence. And I will say, I do believe your minor merit in this card talks about a lapse in judgment. So it could be that people see you as not really having a good sense of judgment when it comes to maybe a love situation. It could be with Sailor Neptune coming up with the Magician. Again, like maybe not exactly seeing maybe your manifestations clearly, or it could be that there's a very dreamy idea of what you could manifest. I do believe in manifestation, but I don't believe you can really control someone's attraction to you. So it could be that you're viewed as someone who, again, is wanting to manifest a very dreamy person, and it could be, Jesus Christ, this fucking fly. I'm sorry, I'm getting so annoyed. Let me calm down. Okay. But yeah, unfortunately, it does seem like you're viewed as someone who has a lot of hope for a romantic situation that maybe doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And again, I know that's a really negative thing to say, But again, if you resonate with that and it does bother you and it burdens you, then it should be something you pay attention to. And it can be that people make excuses for, oh, they're my twin flame, they're my soulmate. And I don't want to look at anyone else, although, it's a very difficult situation. It doesn't make you happy. It doesn't make you feel good. It's always this energy of, I want more from this person, or I still need to manifest something with this person because it doesn't come in naturally or easily, something like that. Now, one thing though, I think part of the reason why people see that you do have a lot of strength to overcome it is because you have a lot of strength to withstand the kind of crappiness of the situation. Like, if you do resonate with being interested in someone, and I have no judgment towards people who struggle to let go in connections, like I was the master of that for a long time. So I know the feeling very well. And it could be that the fact that you're even able to stay in a situation like this, although it feels uncomfortable, it maybe is not the most positive situation. Maybe it brings you this feeling of being lost, or a feeling of negativity, a feeling of like things not working out. You have a lot of strength to kind of stay in a situation like that. And in a way, I think people see you as someone who has enough strength to also overcome that sort of situation. So moving into your this lost card that you have, you got the backpack. What is that? The adventurer merit. So I'll read that to you, and this could be kind of telling you how people see you, or maybe specific person sees you. So the adventurer merit symbolizes challenging your surroundings and making independent choices. Adventurers are natural explorers, forever seeking new challenges and thrills. They love discovering unique places and people. They prefer to stay in constant motion and hate being restrained, which can trigger conflict with authoritative figures. They thrive in competitive scenarios and view life as a series of potential accomplishments and experiences. To adventurers, nature offers an opportunity to prove themselves. So your virtues are restless, headstrong, and competitive, and the flaws could be quarrelsome. So, I mean, I think that fits in very well with even your song messages, as far as like the more general message of like having persistence, not giving up. And we definitely see that with strength. Like you have this power to stay committed to your goals. And it could be that you're viewed as someone who, even listening to me, you may not agree with what I say. If you do resonate with having someone you're interested in, and maybe you don't want to let go. And even despite what I say, you're kind of independent in your own beliefs and stuff like that. So it could be that you're viewed as someone who wants to prove people like me wrong in this sort of scenario, that you can manifest things, you can manifest a person. Again, I don't encourage that, especially if it's been, years of waiting for someone. I would not be waiting around for that type of person. I would not think the chances are high that they're coming back around, just logically. And despite what I would manifest, like, I have not seen those types of things work out in my favor. So I wouldn't, because I don't see that work out in my favor, I don't think it's wise to tell other people that that's going to work out for them as well. Not that it's not possible, just not what I've seen. So I can't speak on that as being the truth in my case. So then your minor merit, again, is affliction, so a lapse in judgment. So again, people could think that your judgment over a love situation, or maybe it's, I'm assuming it's love, considering the bed card, with it having to do with intimacy, sex, possibly relationships, things like that. But maybe, again, not really seeing a situation clearly. And I would pay attention to if your story has been just constantly been in this energy of wanting to manifest something. Eventually those manifestations should come in. And I'm not, like, I am a spiritual person, but I don't believe in waiting forever for a manifestation. And And again, like it could be people seeing you as someone who doesn't see the situation clearly, who maybe should give up on a situation. Okay. So in the book, Lost, feeling a costly affliction's absence, it shows kind of like a poster. It says local developer's daughter is missing. So you get a date, July 28th, that says Sadie Kun, an avid hiker and experienced outdoorsman known by the trail name Trash Panda, was reported missing after she failed to return from a hike on Wednesday. She was last seen hiking alone on the 20-mile Brown Lake Trail. A group of hikers reported seeing a woman fitting her description, making her way up the trail and acting distressed. Local authorities and volunteers, including friends and family, conducted a 10-day search, but nothing was found. Sadie's father, Douglas Kun, did not realize his daughter was missing until a few days after her planned return. Mr. Kun was expected to make a statement in the coming days. I don't know. The way I connect to this is just that there's this energy of someone being missing. And that could be the person that you're interested in. There's an absence. There's this feeling of them being missing. There's this feeling of someone expected to make a statement in the coming days. Could be other readings that tell you that. Again, I don't think you should ever take love readings so seriously, especially in situations like this. It could be that you're viewed as someone who makes up for a lacking love relationship through readings and this fantasy of what you could manifest with them. Again, very difficult messages to share, but it could be just how you're being viewed by people. It could be that, again, you want to prove them wrong by being able to manifest something. And I know that this message is quite discouraging to listen to. But, and maybe it is possible if, this is like maybe a newer thing, something where you haven't seen so much absence from someone, but it comes across as someone has been absent, someone has been lost, someone hasn't been there for you. And there's this energy of staying strong even though the situation is not fulfilling. Something that I often talk about, I think it's very easy to tell whether a situation may be unfulfilling based off of how many tarot readings you watch about someone. What I've realized is if you're satisfied enough in a connection, there's enough going on in your day-to-day life to not really be watching a lot of readings about them. If you find yourself watching readings constantly about a specific person, you could maybe look into that and ask yourself, is it to make up for a lack of fulfillment within the relationship? Because there is not really a whole lot of activity really going on with that person. And yeah, sure, tarot readings could tell you things you want to hear and leave you with this feeling of hope that, yes, like this will happen one day. And then you're left waiting. And I don't enjoy that feeling. So if you don't enjoy that feeling, it could be that you're honestly seen as someone who might be brave enough to really look at that and overcome that sort of challenge and to be able to walk away from a situation that is unfulfilling. And thankfully that fly finally went away. So yeah, it's maybe an annoying situation and it will go away, but maybe it's not through trying to manifest this very dreamy idea with someone who's not, it's not working, or you're constantly in this energy of manifesting. Does tell you that maybe the situation is lacking. And I won't get too much more into it, but hopefully that makes sense. Again, kind of sorry that your messages came through so harsh, and I'm sure plenty of you probably clicked off, so you're not here with me now. But for those of you who are and are brave enough to listen to this sort of message, you do really have a lot of strength. The ones who are left listening, you have a lot of strength and you can overcome this situation. And the fact that you're even brave enough to be open to listening to these sort of harsh messages shows me that you do have a lot of strength. and that you can, grow in this situation. You can overcome obstacles. So yeah, that's how I see you, if you're still here, at least. And thank you for watching. I hope that these messages were helpful, although that they are maybe a bit uncomfortable to listen to. But yeah, thank you for being here, and I'd love to see you back in another reading. But if not, have a great day, and I'm wishing you the best. Bye. Okay, pile 5. Welcome to your reading. So you guys chose the aragonite stone. So if you've seen my other readings, then you know what I think about this stone. So I will mention it. I think one thing I didn't mention, so usually when this stone comes up, I think of a very complex situation, maybe a very complicated situation. But it could also be like maybe like you're viewed as someone who is very complex. I would say that's true based off of what I'm about to share about your reading and like how people see you. So I shuffled a song for every pile, and so you can feel free to listen to these song messages, or I put timestamps in the description to skip the song messages if you wanted to just get straight into your cards. I explained to the other piles that the reason why I wanted to do that was specific piles had very specific messages coming through in the song, so I kind of thought, it might not be for everybody. It might just be for specific people who need those messages or want to listen to those messages. Mostly because a lot of the songs did come up quite romantic. Yours is not exactly, I would say, maybe romantic, but the song you got is Lollipop by Lil Wayne. So, that's a pretty popular song. I'm sure you guys know about that song. And the reason why I kind of thought that fits in a little bit with your stone is just because the story behind why the song is on my playlist I thought is interesting, so I wanted to talk about it. I've heard that song ever since I was a child, so it's not like it was a new song to me when I decided to add it to my playlist, but the story kind of goes that a job that I was working at, I would work these early morning shifts, and you could come in and kind of like maybe listen to music while you're working. So like we would be at like around our coworkers, and one of my coworkers was playing his music, and that song ended up coming up, and he mentioned that he thinks it's a really good song, but ended up skipping it anyways because it's more of an like not a very appropriate song to be listening to maybe with your coworkers or at work. And I think he got a little bit embarrassed and skipped it. But I thought it was funny because he definitely doesn't look like the type of person who would be listening to that type of music. Like, I guess I would describe his style as more like hipster. And definitely kind of an unexpected sort of thing. It's like, you listen to this? So I kind of really like that when I see that within people, like something very unexpected, like, okay, you don't seem like the type of person who would be into that. And that's always something that's very intriguing to me when I see that within people. Because generally I see people as being very sucked into being a certain type of person who only likes these types of things and doesn't like these types of things automatically because I'm this type of person. So when anyone like kind of breaks out of those sorts of like maybe stereotypes, like I love it. I love to see it. So it inspired me to put it on my playlist. So one thing could be that you're a very unique person. You're not really influenced by the group of people you're surrounded with or society. You kind of just like what you like. It doesn't really matter what other people think of it. And it could be that you actually inspire other people around you to kind of embrace that within themselves. So that's kind of cool. I didn't really expect that to come through, but that's just something that kind of popped into my mind. So, okay. I didn't really have much to write down about this song because I just wrote down this song is just about sex. The only lyrics that I wrote down was, okay, little mama had a swag like mine, she even wear her hair down her back like mine. And then, shawty want a thug, in parentheses, I like that. So it could be that I don't know. I would assume you maybe resonate more with the first things that I'm saying, but maybe it's like you're viewed as someone who's very sexual, someone with a high sex drive. Um, Maybe you're attracted to someone right now and that's something that people are noticing about you. It could be that you feel like on some level you have a lot in common, or you have a similar vibe towards the person that you're attracted to or interested in. Could be that, yeah, okay, I'll just go with that. So hopefully that resonates. And then we'll go ahead and get into your cards. So yeah, because like the reason, yeah, why I would say like you're seen as a complex individual is like maybe like kind of like the last pile. I did have this message come through as like maybe people assume pile four was a lot more into certain things than they really are, maybe based off of their appearance or something like that. Like, for example, this is something that I didn't say for them, but like maybe if you wear all black, someone would assume like you're goth and you like things that goth people like, but maybe you just enjoy wearing black. So something a little bit similar about your pile, where there's something very unexpected about the things that you like people wouldn't expect that. Maybe your music taste is so like a very vast, like a lot of variety within your music taste or something like that, very unexpected. Or the way you dressed or your appearance says you should be into these things, but you're actually into a lot more than what people would assume. So very similar, and I would say it's like it could even be more like with this sort of complex personality that people would assume, or people find it shocking, maybe the sorts of experiences you've been through or something like that, maybe like the challenges you've been through in life. So let's take a look at your mushroom card here. It says, okay, wherever I am there. What I get from that card is like this energy of being very present in the moment. Maybe you're seen as someone who's not often, thinking back to the past and maybe reminiscing on the past. You may also be viewed as someone who's not super anxious about your future, maybe not super concerned about your future. Maybe it's just that you are seen as someone who's very relaxed, someone who's maybe very entertaining to be around in this like present moment. You could be coming across as someone who's very grounded, again, someone very relaxed. It could be because of the way you come out, like maybe like there's a lot of unexpected things people realize about you. It's like maybe there's not a lot of things that shock you, so you're seen as someone who takes shocking information very well. Like it doesn't throw you off, or you have a very sort of maybe stoic reaction to things. So we have Birdwatcher, spotting a seeker's happiness. Yeah, I don't know. It could be that you're viewed as someone who's also just practicing being present, like something that I've seen recently in order to help ground yourself and remain present is to kind of like, oh, I think it was someone who was going on a walk and chose a specific color and would find things with that specific colors to like kind of just pay attention to as a way to keep in the present moment. So it could be that you're viewed as someone who is kind of practicing that. We have the Hanged One. And, oh, that was interesting. I forgot about this. The snake imagery coming out. I don't know if, maybe, I don't know. I thought snake tattoo. Maybe one of you or a couple of you have a snake tattoo and someone's noticing that. It does seem as if you could be viewed as someone who pays close attention to things. You notice a lot. You have a deep awareness, especially with sort of like Pisces energy coming through with the Hanged One. People could see you as someone who's, again, very aware. Maybe they would say you're psychic. It could just be that you pay very close attention to things. The Hanged One is also about having maybe a different perspective of things. So maybe people think of your perspective as being kind of unusual. Again, maybe it's like the person you look like doesn't seem like you would have these sorts of perspectives. So maybe there's something about people viewing you as being surprised by what perspectives you have in life. And it seems like people think that there's something about maybe putting you up on a pedestal a little bit, seeing a lot of value in the way you see things. It could be that people really look up to your perspective. And it could also be with the snake energy that you catch deception very quickly. Like, yeah, it could be that deception is very obvious to you. And it could be that there's someone you're around that you express some sort of deception, and you opened up their perspective to seeing it in a specific way that they didn't see it before. And maybe, I don't know, it seems like your perspective is very like healing or helpful for other people, and that might be a way you're being viewed. We have crib, child, innocent, birth, responsible, sanctuary, pregnant, caretaker, plan ahead, and potential. Yeah, I kind of feel as if, okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's something about like you have the ability to kind of guide other people with less experience than you with this crib energy. Like you're very responsible. You want to take care of people and you see the potential in situations. And you have this ability to, well, it's interesting, this sort of messages of being present in the moment. But I would also say maybe, yeah, okay, you have the gatherer merit, which would imply that people see you as someone who's very intelligent. Um, and part of having high intelligence is someone who sees problems way before someone even noticed, like sees maybe a problem and a solution to that problem way before someone even noticed there was a problem. So there's something like you have foresight, you know how things kind of happen, you have a lot of experience and you have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to kind of help people around you and kind of shift their perspective to, I think, avoid deception, avoid problems. And again, it's just kind of coming through like you are kind of advanced, maybe like among your peers, something like that. So, okay, let's see. And I have a little Sailor Moon Major Arcana deck that I got. Again, I told all the other piles. I'm a little embarrassed because it's not like a very high quality deck. It's just something that I wanted to get because it's a nostalgic thing for me. And I really like the old art style of Sailor Moon. It's like a little thing on your card. I can't get it off. Okay. So you have the moon. Sorry, I'm like distracted. Which, oh my gosh. Okay. Pisces energy coming through very strong with the moon. A little bit, I also connect the moon energy to Cancer because Cancer is ruled by the moon. But yeah, very psychic, very intuitive, like such a deep awareness that people are seeing you with. And again, it's like the information that you share can be shocking to other people, because it's something that they didn't even see coming, or they didn't even see it from that perspective. And I think your perspective of how you see things really opens people up in a very helpful way, and again, kind of in like shows them that maybe they can't always trust a situation, that maybe they should look deeper into a situation before maybe getting involved. Or again, it's something about people really look up to your perspective and finds it very helpful for avoiding difficult or negative or poisonous situations. And yeah, with the moon energy, kind of associating the moon with Cancer as well. Again, people could see you as someone who's very nurturing, someone who's very caring, someone who wants the best for the people around you and willing to kind of help out and give advice kind of wherever you can. So let's take a look at the Bird Watcher. And again, you have the Gatherer merit, so I'll read that to you. The gatherer merit symbolizes learning from your surroundings and collecting knowledge. Gatherers are information-driven intellects who enjoy piecing together the inner workings of the world around them. Though they are collectors, they are generous and gracious in sharing their abundance. They view themselves as a part of the natural world and feel at home in the outdoors. To gatherers, nature is a source of endless lessons. So your virtues could be, and the way people see you could be very open-minded, intellectual, and curious, but some people could also see you as a know-it-all because of that. And then your minor merit is seekers, so you're searching for something, or you might be viewed as someone who is searching for something. Maybe more wisdom, more knowledge, more like intuitive insights or something like that. Could be like you're strengthening your intuition. Could be a way people view you. Okay, so bird watcher. We get the date September 23rd. So that is coming up pretty soon. It says, what a day. We must have found about 40 different species of birds. I think that's a new record for me. A lot of people find reward in nature by taking something from it, and I get it. We all have to eat, but I like to look for those mutually beneficial moments when nature gets something from me just as much as I get something from it. Like today, for example, feeding the birds, they got seeds and we got to study them. Positive sums all around. I think that's what a lot of people are looking for, happiness for all without a catch. Yeah, I don't know, it could be again sort of like protecting energy, very nurturing energy, wanting to give back to the people around you and share your abundance or maybe your perspective, your knowledge. And again, it's, again, people value your mind, your perspectives, your way of looking at things. And I think, it kind of shifts other people's perspectives around you to kind of help them avoid, again, dangerous situations, kind of be able to plan ahead, see things that are coming and be prepared for those things. Again, it's a very mysterious energy, so the information that you share is often things people have never thought of, and again, really opens their perspective. So I think, again, you're very important, like a very important person to be around. And I think there's people around you who really value your perspectives and your advice, and it comes across as very helpful and even like saving people, kind of. So I think that's where it's coming through. You're very generous with your knowledge. You want to help out the people around you. You come across as someone who's a caretaker who wants the best for everybody. And it could be that you're viewed as someone who's very generous in certain ways. But I think that's basically it. I really liked your reading. It was kind of unexpected, the sort of message that came through in your reading. But I really like it, and I love your energy, and I'd love to know who chose pile 5. I think you guys are very important people for the people in your life, the people around you. And yeah, it could be that there's people who out there that really do kind of benefit from your perspectives and your advice on things, and kind of like your vision, something like that. So yeah, that's your reading. Hope you enjoyed it. Pile 5, loved having you here with me, and I'll see you back in the next reading. Bye. Okay, pile 6, welcome to your reading. So you guys chose the pink moonstone here, and we're going to talk about your song that I shuffled for your pile, because I shuffled one for every pile. And so I have timestamps in the description in case you did want to skip the song messages and just go straight into the card messages. It did seem like there's kind of separate messages coming out for some piles based off of the song and based off of the card, so it could be that you can kind of just pick and choose. If the song messages seems to resonate, maybe you want to listen. If it doesn't seem to resonate so much, you could just skip straight into the cards and see how that feels. But yeah, so your song you got was Cheap Thrills by Sia. This is the song that I have on my playlist. I completely forgot until I looked into your song that there's a version with Sean Paul, which actually I find that version to be a little bit better. And I just forgot that that version of the song existed. Otherwise, I'd have that version of the song on my playlist instead. But kind of just talking about. So I wrote down some lyrics from that song. It's a pretty popular song, so I'm sure a lot of you know about it. But the lyrics say, gotta do my hair, put my makeup on, it's Friday night and I won't be long. Till I hit the dance floor, I got all I need. No, I ain't got cash, but I got you, baby. And it says, baby, I don't need dollar bills to have fun tonight. I love cheap thrills. I don't need no money as long as I can feel the beat. So basically, in like another verse of the song, it talks about going out on Saturday night as well. So I don't know. It could be that you're viewed as someone who likes to go out on the weekend. You like to have fun, something like that. It could also be that, and maybe it's that you maybe don't really spend a whole lot of money when you go out, or it could be that you enjoy going out even if, you're not really spending money. You're just maybe, I don't know, I would think it's like going on a bike ride or something like that. Free things, things that you can do. And I mean, unless you don't have a bike, then you would have to go buy a bike. There's not a whole lot of things we can do for free in this world. Or maybe you have the mindset that there is a lot of things that we can do for free in this world, but we choose not to, or something like that. But yeah, it could be that. Like another way that I kind of interpret the song is that you don't really care about money or status, and you're not really impressed by those things. You're not really impressed by material things. It could be, something that just popped into my mind is that you could be viewed as someone who enjoys making gifts rather than buying gifts for people. Or maybe you enjoy receiving handmade gifts rather than just going out and buying something. Like, it's a lot more meaningful to you to have someone like put in that type of effort, and make something themselves or something like that. So maybe you're seen as someone who would rather have something that's homemade, something like that, or maybe you would rather, like, instead of going out. I explained in another reading, like, there's a trend going around. It's kind of like dying now, I think, but it was super popular, this idea about getting the Dubai chocolate with like the pistachio inside. And so, like, maybe you would be viewed as someone who would rather just make it yourself rather than spend $15 on a chocolate bar, something like that. Um, Yeah, and I also wrote that it's possible you're viewed as someone who loves someone for who they are, like how they make you feel rather than their status or how popular they are or something like that, or like what they can offer you, something like that. Like you love people like for their hearts rather than their appearance or their status, things like that. So that's kind of what I got from your song. And so let's take a look at your cards. Yeah, this is one of the mushroom cards that has come out quite a lot in my readings. I don't have a great memory of what they say, though. But this card specifically, it almost looks like it has some weed plants at the bottom, so it could be viewed, like, you could be viewed as someone who, I don't know, likes smoking weed. That's something you do. Maybe you're a stoner. We have, I cannot fight gravity, but I can learn how to fall. So yeah, maybe you're viewed as someone who's a little bit more passive or just like relaxed and open-minded. Like, you don't feel the need to like force a situation, or control situations. You kind of just, maybe you're viewed as someone who just enjoys going with the flow. We have identification book, mastering a resilient tool's knowledge. Okay, we also have the devil. And then we also have the dog. So with the devil and the dog, definitely makes me think of, obviously, loyalty crossing into codependency. It could be that you're viewed as someone who has like a deep sort of attachment towards someone in your life. you have like a loyal friend that you would stick to even if things were rough. Like this would be like definitely ride or die energy. So, and I think that kind of fits in with maybe not necessarily caring about status or something like that. Like it could be that you are viewed as someone who does make excuses for people who are not great, you know, something like that. That you remain loyal towards someone even if maybe they don't have a lot to offer you or something like that. That could be something that's coming through. We have mixer, preparing, combining, mixing things up, alchemy, stirring the pot, catalyst for change and developing. This could also be that you're viewed as someone who, you know, the devil can kind of come across as, along with codependency, maybe like manipulation and trying to really control an outcome or a situation. But I would say people are viewing you as someone who is releasing control of a situation. Again, with this sort of, I cannot fight gravity, but I can learn how to fall, as a sort of going with the flow energy. So it could be that you're not wanting to control a situation. Maybe you're not wanting to control someone's loyalty to you. You let them decide whether they want to be loyal to you or not. You could be viewed as someone who it possibly could come across as a bit impulsive. It could also be that there's something where you're viewed as someone who has, to be honest, a sort of uncomfortable energy. With this mixer card, preparing, combining, mixing things up, alchemy, stirring the pot, catalyst for change, developing. What this card makes me think of is that, and this is honestly a lot more of a positive thing than what it sounds. So when I say this, this is not me judging you. This is actually me kind of supporting you, and I think this is a good thing. So it could be that your energy comes across as a bit uncomfortable for people to be around, and it's because you have information that could really change people's lives. And sometimes change is very uncomfortable, and people don't always embrace change or like change. So it could be that sort of the information you have or your energy does create this feeling of being uncomfortable, but it does help people grow. And it could be that it's not you who deals with issues of codependency or that you're working through codependency, but it could even be that the way people see you is, well, two messages actually. Something about fighting against codependency, and maybe there's ways that you point that out for other people, that maybe their loyalty is crossing into codependency and it's based off of fear rather than anything else. Like it could be a very controlling energy, and you notice that within people, so you help point that out. And again, that's something that people don't usually want to see within themselves. So it could be that, again, your presence for other people could be quite uncomfortable for that reason. And again, I'm not saying, like, you're not here to make people comfortable. As long as the information you're giving is like coming with an intention of wanting to help someone and not hurt them or, you know, discourage them or bring them down, even if it's uncomfortable, like, I feel like you're viewed as someone who is wanting to help. At least I can see that, but there might be people around you who just feel that you're trying to bring them down in some way. You're trying to make them feel bad about a situation or something, or you're bringing up their shadow sides and they don't want to see that, and because they don't want to see that, they would say, you're uncomfortable to be around, you're a bad person for making me feel this way. But it's really their avoidance in acknowledging something within themselves that's keeping them trapped or holding them back, or it's a toxic trait, something like that. And the other message that I get along with that is this idea that people want to connect with other people based off of maybe status. The reason why I think that is connecting the devil energy to Capricorn, which might be about status, your reputation, or something like that. And it could be that you see people who only go after people based off of their reputation or based off of what kind of things they can get out of them. Like you might see someone who only loves someone conditionally, and maybe you really fight for this idea of loving people unconditionally. And a lot of the times, loving people with a lot of conditions involved can be a sign of codependency. Like, I want them to be with me, and if they're not with me, I'm wishing them the worst ever because they betrayed me and they hurt me and they didn't have the same feelings towards me. You could be the type of person who, even in that situation, would still wish the best for the other person. Like, it's okay if you don't want to be with me. I still wish the best for you, and I hope that the decision makes you happy. So there's actually a very supportive energy that you have, although I'm not exactly sure if people really see that in you. They might, for some, it just might be that they see you as pointing out their bad side, making them feel insecure about maybe more toxic traits or more negative traits, or it could be things that they don't even see. Like, it could be that someone, I see things like this where it's like someone who feels so uncomfortable alone or in their own presence, and when they're interested in someone, they constantly need interactions with that person. They're the type of person who needs their partner to call them all the time so that they feel okay, they feel relaxed, they trust that their partner's not cheating on them. But this is all based off of very fearful emotions or fearful thoughts. And it could be that in some way you point that out for people, that you might, those people could be kind of attached to those people for very negative reasons, reasons of fear. And it's this idea that they have to be this certain way. And if it's not this certain way, they're less deserving of my love. Something like that. And maybe there's people around you who want someone's loyalty to the point of it being kind of toxic. Like, I don't want to self-soothe in this connection. I don't want to be independent in this connection. I just look at you as being the worst person for not being able to soothe my anxieties. And the more someone is like that in a connection, the more they're really going to struggle. And, the more you self-soothe and be an independent person, and kind of your relationships are based off of a want them to be there, not a need them to be there, relationships do flow better. There's less toxicity within relationships. It's, in this energy of flowing. I think you try and show people how they can flow in a relationship rather than have relationships based off of fear and toxicity and codependency and things like that. And again, your presence may be uncomfortable for people around you, but I would say it's very important for people around you, even if they're not ready for the type of information that you have to give. It does seem like if people are open to it, they could really heal, they could really learn, and they could really overcome a lot of situations, and it seems like their relationships could be a lot healthier than what they are. So I have the Sailor Moon Major Arcana, like a flimsy little kind of low quality deck, but I wanted to get them because I really enjoy the nostalgia of this old art. Okay, so you have Venus, love. This would be, the lovers. There we go. Yeah, and there you have Sailor Venus there. Little fun note, if you are aware of Sailor Moon, apparently the show was actually supposed to be like her being the main character and not Sailor Moon, and then they changed it at some point, I think. I heard about that. But anyways, this does seem to be about love. There's people around you who maybe, again, like, it might be even that the sort of unconditional love that you have for people around you and wishing the best for people around you, even if they've hurt you, even if they've betrayed you, these types of things, still wishing the best for people, or having a very healthy sort of idea around relationships and not needing someone, but just enjoying their presence and letting them be their own person in the relationship with you and not trying to control them. And it could be that there's people around you who struggle with that and struggle with even seeing that there might be an issue with that. Like they might place a lot of the blame on the other person for not being there for them. But it's like, you should be there for yourself, and your relationships are going to flow a lot better when you're there for yourself and you take care of yourself and you don't need someone to come in and rescue you, something like that. Yeah, I think that's about it with those messages, but let's take a look at the identification book. The Gatherer Merit. So it says the Gatherer Merit symbolizes learning from your surroundings and collecting knowledge. Gatherers are information driven intellects who enjoy piecing together the inner workings of the world around them. Though they are collectors, they are generous and gracious in sharing their abundance. They view themselves as a part of the natural world and feel at home in the outdoors. To gatherers, nature is a source of endless lessons. So your virtues are open-minded, intellectual, and curious. But yeah, and I would even say more so in this pile, just to be truthful, based off, like, I relate to this reading a lot. Like, this might be my pile. And I do make people uncomfortable with the messages that I share, and they might see it as me trying to bring them down, and they can't see that I'm trying to open up their perspective to have healthier connections, healthier relationships. Like, it could be like what I was trying to explain before is that, this idea of like when people go through breakups, suddenly the other person was like the worst person they'd ever known, and they have nothing good to say about that person, and the other person did everything wrong in the connection, and they didn't do anything wrong, and the other person should have just been like way better or something like that. And it's a very sort of limited way of looking at relationships. It's not an honest way of looking at relationships. It's definitely not an accurate way of looking at relationships. Like, I don't believe for a second that that's how you saw that person from the beginning. You saw a lot of value in that person from the beginning, and that doesn't change just based off of a betrayal. Like, those qualities still exist along with maybe these negative qualities as well, and looking at people accurately, not just in their negative qualities but both their negative and positive qualities. And I think you might have the ability to do that, and it's a very healthy way of looking at people and relationships. And again, so like, to explain, the flaws that people see in you could be that they think you're a know-it-all, and I think that might be more prevalent in your reading based off of maybe people feeling uncomfortable by the things that you say, and not being able to see your intentions behind it, not being able to see your perspective in it, not being able to see how it might be a much healthier way of living, a much healthier way of being in a relationship. And it would bring a lot of healing and a lot of good energy that maybe people are not wanting to see because they don't feel heard. They don't feel like maybe their emotions are being paid attention to. And it could be people who feel, unfortunately, quite weak within their emotions, to not be able to handle being independent or self-soothing within relationships, and needing things constantly from another person to feel safe, to not feel anxious or to not worry. They rely on other people for that, not on themselves for that. So yeah, there could be people around you who are kind of like, again, a little bit uncomfortable or butthurt by the things that you say, and these could be more emotional types of people. And there's nothing wrong with being emotional. It's just when you use your emotions in a way that's like not being able to think objectively, being too in your emotions that you can't grow from a situation or maybe see yourself accurately and things like that. So, okay, your minor merits is the tools, so something well used. So maybe you have like a reference to something. In this case, maybe it's a book that you reference that taught you these things. For me, it might be like my practice with divination that helps me with these sorts of things or messages. So maybe you're seen as someone who has like some sort of tool that you, again, reference or look back to for assistance or something like that. But let's take a look at what this says. So the identification book, Mastering a Resilient Tools Knowledge. You get the date August 6th, which just recently passed. While ago. I still think I'm in August for some reason, but we're in September. So it passed a while ago, like a month ago. But so it says, here's the book I mentioned last week. Okay, so yeah, maybe there's a book that you recommend to people about maybe codependency or something like that, having to do with love relationships. Maybe it really allowed you to kind of have a healthier perspective when it comes to relationships, having a healthier energy within relationships, and being able to go with the flow a lot more rather than wanting to control people or control situations. But yeah, so it says, sorry for the delay. I was up to my eyeballs in data with this assessment project. You seemed pretty interested in all the plants and feathery friends we found, so I want you to have it. It's great for learning the basics of identification, and I already know all of it anyway. Don't mind all the corrections in there. Some of it was outdated. So it could also be that there's something, yeah, like, okay, so I'll end your reading pretty soon. I don't think I have a whole lot more to say, but it could be that there's people who feel like they have accurate information, and you can see if that information is accurate, then it should be helping you. Shouldn't be holding you back or shouldn't be keeping you trapped, or there's something about what people feel like is the right information may be not the greatest information. It could be that you come in with new information, maybe you recommend a book, or maybe it's again, just kind of updating people, giving them new ways of looking at things. And again, I do feel like people see you in a way that they feel like you're a know-it-all, or that something about your information is upsetting to them, and it gets them to look at themselves accurately. And if they can't even see other people accurately, then they probably don't see themselves accurately either. It's always like they're the worst and I'm the best. I have nothing to work on. They did everything wrong. And it could be that you're bringing up things, well, it's like showing them, well, you're not perfect. There's things for you to work on, and maybe pointing out specific things that are causing problems, and maybe they don't want to see it because there's an inability to look at situations or people accurately. And I do feel like it could be based off of very intense emotions that people feel, and that sort of kind of blindfolding them and not looking at situations objectively, and just wanting their emotions to be, validated or something like that. And that comes first before, again, looking at the kind of like the hard stuff, the stuff that actually helps us grow and improve, and, which can help our relationships. So I hope you understand what I'm saying. Hopefully you resonate with the messages. And again, I hope you don't feel thrown off by maybe this sort of idea that your presence is uncomfortable, because your presence is very important, and you're not here to make people comfortable. Again, it's not, hopefully not with the intention of making people uncomfortable, but that might just be a side effect of the sort of information that you give. And it could just be the people around you, again, not wanting to see themselves accurately. And I don't think you're an energy that allows people to get anywhere with that. So that's your reading. Again, I hope it resonated and it makes sense, and it doesn't make you feel bad about who you are. Because again, I think you are a very important person, and it's not something that I would say is wrong with you, especially if you are always doing these things with good intention, and to kind of help people break free from codependency. I'm assuming it's about codependency. So I'm going to stop talking. Hopefully those messages were important for you to hear. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next reading. Bye.